Trout to be struggling, I think is a little bit of understatement. I don't know. There's been comments out there from people I've seen that are disappointed or feel like Trout wasn't able to, whatever, come up in the clutch moments. I don't know, or not. I haven't heard anything, and I doubt they'll ever say anything. But I don't know if he maybe re-injured that thumb. Maybe he got jammed on that pitch one night, and it just has been kind of nagging. But because they've been so close to the wild card, they didn't have the luxury of resting him maybe 1 or 2 days. I doubt they'll come out and say that at all. But yeah, Trout has struggled in the last month, when the critical month where the Angels went 9-15.
And even and more than that, it was like he came up in a lot of situations where we needed a hit and it didn't happen.
Right.
I can't completely hate the guy. Like, it's Mike Trout. I mean, all year other than the 6 weeks he was missing due to injury, but he came through for us. He just happened to go sour
at the wrong
time. A guy who consistently puts up numbers. I mean, this dude's number 2 every year, or 1 or 2 in the MVP.
And I think and kind of going back to this really slow month, I think that's gonna hurt him in the MVP voting because before this month started, last couple months started, he was right in the thick of it, and I think this would be the first year
he'll drop out of the top 3.
I think he'll drop out of the top 4. I think I probably put him at maybe 4. I'll go Altuve, Judge now with his turnaround, and then Kluber. I think Kluber. I don't know if Ramirez, because I don't think he has the name yet. So I think that might hurt him a little bit. But I would go Altuve, Judge, Kluber, and then Trout for MVP.
I see Trout in that 4th spot in the MVP voting.
Right.
I think Altuve is my MVP. I'm right with you, except for the number 3. I'll give it to Ramirez because the dude played exceptional this year. But Kluber's a good one too. Well, let's keep talking about things that happened during this month. The pitching, I believe. Now this is just me. I didn't see any numbers. I didn't look into it as much. You're more the numbers guy. I didn't see the pitching being that much of a problem this month. Mm-hmm. I think the starting pitching kind of picked up the slack a little bit more, except for the games where Brett Norris pitched, because obviously that was bullpen games. But Bridwell pitched well in this month. I mean, he lost he had a few games where he kind of messed up. You had Nolasco, who I think pitched better this month than he did all year.
Right, yeah, and that's kind of odd. And then too, you had Richards slowly coming back from his, so he wasn't necessarily a full go, and he did for Richards. And I guess this is something to look forward to for next year. Is the last 5 starts, and again they haven't been full games because he's been on pitch count, so the innings per pitch are going to be kind of low.
Right.
But he has a 2.74 ERA. Opponent's batting average though is 181, which is really good. He's gained them out. And we always talk about his walks and getting in trouble. So, and again, in that 5-game period, 23 strikeouts, 6 walks. So, that's something good to build on and hope that he was able to stay healthy and move on to the next season and get a full season, 26, 30 starts under his belt for the year.
Well, it was good that he came back when he did and got innings in this year. Because, had he have not came back, then we're back to what happened this season, where in the spring training, arm fatigue, maybe this helps him out a little bit.
Right.
Get some innings under his belt. We'll see. We'll get into what they need to do, moving forward from that. Guy who kind of stood out to me offensively this month was the acquisition of Justin Upton. I think the guy, has been playing well, and even Brandon Phillips of late has kind of been hitting the ball a little harder. Obviously, I think Brandon Phillips is gone at the end of the season.
Yeah, because his contract's up. So unless
we resign him for a decent.
Yeah, unless you can get him on the cheap and not take a big chunk out of your payroll, I don't see why not. But yeah, Upton has been, he kind of started a little bit slow when he made the transition from Detroit to the Angels this September month. But for the month, 7 home runs, 15 RBIs. His batting average is a little low at 247. Mm-hmm. But as of recently, he's been doing really well. So you're kind of hoping that beginning part was just kind of getting used to your surroundings, I guess you would say.
Right.
So hopefully it's something to build on.
And aside from the home run last night, I think Blake Parker stepped into the closer's role there at the end of the month pretty decently.
Yeah, and I think again, we'll talk about it more next week, but I think that will be an interesting role or an interesting position battle before the spring training is the bullpen closer setup, rotation. I think the all pitching battles next spring training will be really interesting to see.
You know, it's at the beginning of the year. Well, not even at the beginning of the year. I think before the season started, our bullpen situation was like, cool, we're going to have Houston Street be our closer, Cam Bedrosian going to be our 8th inning guy, and then we kind of didn't know the rest of the guys.
Right.
Everybody, other than Alvarez.
Right.
Everyone else was kind of like, who's this Blake Parker guy? Keenan Middleton, you know.
Well, Middleton didn't even break camp with the team.
Right.
He was in the minor leagues for the first month, I believe.
Right. Petit was the guy, too, who kind of shined this year. He did decent. He had some spot starts. No one expected Bud Norris to be the closer. So, So looking at that bullpen at the beginning of the year or even breaking camp, it's like, okay, well, you know. I mean, there's so much I want to say, but the poll question is when I want to release what I had in my head. So quickly, I talked to you guys about emailing us at the All Angels podcast. We had an email from a guy named Mike Vigil. He's actually emailed us a few times. He said, so I waited to email, and as I had guessed it last week, we are done. Was it a successful season? I guess no, because ultimately the team enters the season wanting to win the ship. But in my opinion, the Angels had a decent season. Like you guys have said in previous shows, this is a 500 team, you know. Right now, I mean, we have three more games left in the season? 3 at home?
Yeah, Thursday, Friday, today's Thursday, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So depending on whether we win or lose today, this team has an opportunity to maybe finish one game over 500.
Yeah, I mean, like I saad, give or take, you're looking at 500 record, give or take maybe 1 or 2 games.
Right.
I think that's where it's gonna be, because towards the end of the year, especially this last series with Seattle, is gonna be kind of weird because neither team has anything to play for. So, do they take their regular? I can see the Angels playing a lot more of their regulars because it's their home finale. You know, it's Fan Appreciation Day on Saturday night, so you want to put everyone out there that you can. Seattle, on the other hand, they're visiting team. Do you want to put Cano and Cruz out there if you don't need to, if they're ailing a little bit, you know? So that's gonna be interesting. But yeah, so at the end of the year, you're gonna be maybe 1 or 2 games above or below 500.
And that's really what we're playing for. Is like I told you, we're playing for our pride now. Is it something to play for? Sure. I mean, but at the end of the day, I mean, it's tough. As a fan, obviously we want to be there.
Right.
You know, so these final 3 games kind of don't mean much. I see it more like you. I think you had mentioned it. Was it you that mentioned it? I might have been talking to another buddy, but he's talking about how like no, we can get guys, you know, some starts now. In the big leagues, you know, guy like Carlos Preston, I hit a home run.
Let's get him some reps.
You know, I don't know.
I mean, you look at it as a fan. In this time, pretty much this time last year, the Angels were 67 and 86. I mean, to think that this year they flipped it around that much.
Yeah.
You know, yes, it's not what you wanted as a fan, I'm sure. But if you take everything in perspective, where it was last year and where it is this year with everything on top of the injuries, I don't know how a fan you come away from this. And again, from the from the question, I don't know how you come away from this disappointed.
Well, screw it. Let's get into the poll question because there's so much I want to say about that. Mm-hmm. Then let's just go ahead and get into it because I have plenty to say.
Okay, so like we're just talking the podcast question again. You can look on it on every Monday on Twitter at Halo_Haven or on our Facebook group page. Just look up Halo Haven. But I post a question every Monday morning, or try to at least. And this week was simple. Like when you look, and I try to word it the way so I each, you know. So that was. Right down the middle, and then did what you expected to do was at 30. Now, me personally, I was kind of in between. I voted for overachieved, but in my head, I was thinking at the beginning of the year, I said it was gonna be a 500 team, and that's kind of where they are right now. So in my head, I was thinking, well, they did what I thought they were gonna be, but then you take into consideration the injuries, the Trout injury, the rotation injury, the bullpen injuries. You take that into consideration, and then you know what? You could very been. Easily, we could have had a 74 and 88 season like last year. So I end up choosing overachieving. I know you have a lot to say, so I'll give the floor to you.
Yeah, when you posted the question, I 110% agree with what you said. When the season started, I said this team is a 500 team. Like one thing I did say on the show was that if you go back to the first All Angels podcast I did, I think it was a solo show that I did.
Archived in iTunes.
Right. So go ahead and check that out. Cheap plug. I had said that this team on paper, offensively, was no worse than the 2014 team that won the West.
Right.
Okay? So, but that meant, now take that with a grain of salt. I meant that this team would have to play on all cylinders to match that 2014 team. And if you remember in that 2014 team, the difference was pitching.
Yes.
We had a decent rotation with a guy, Jared Weaver, who I think that year definitely was a double-digit wins. But a guy, Matt Shoemaker, won 16 games that year.
Yeah.
Like, that alone put us over the top. 16 games that we did not expect anyone. He won 16 games.
And he was the fifth starter for the most part. Yeah.
So if you look at that, I was like, that's what put us over the top that year. This year, it could have possibly happened. Now, I like to always reference back to the 2002 team that won the World Series because that team was not expected to win anything.
Right.
We weren't expected to make the playoffs. We were not expected to win the World Series even beat the Yankees in the first round of the ALDS. You look at that 2002 team, and again, same thing. That team had a bunch of kind of, Tim Salmon, okay, Mike Trout, Robert Pujols, Garrett Anderson, Troy Glaus, you can match them together. The difference there was you had a guy in Jared Washburn who won 18 games that year. No one expected Jared Washburn to win 18 games that season. No one knew who Jared Washburn was, really.
Right.
So this year we would have needed somebody to step up big, and on the contrary, it was injury after injury and not just little injuries. It was key injuries. An injury to Garrett Richards, out from April 5th all the way till mid-August.
Yeah, and kind of like what you were saying, you can handle those injuries that a week, 2 weeks. Okay, that
was those start or two.
Yeah, those happen to every team. I don't care what team you are. That happens to every team. But the ones that are huge, where you're missing months and months at a time, those are so hard, especially to key players on your team.
Yeah.
That it just makes it super hard to bounce back from and make a legit run at a wild card or even a division.
Yeah.
But like you said, you needed someone to pop up out of nowhere, and kind of what you were saying about the team that won the West in 14. Yeah, Shoemaker was that guy. He won 16 games. Weaver won 18 games.
Yeah, that's
you had 4 pitchers that year with double-digit wins. You had Weaver with 18, CJ with 13, Richards with 13, and then Shoemaker with 16. So that alone was just huge for the Angels, and you weren't able to get that this year.
No, because of the injuries. Now,
right.
I was talking about Garrett Richards out since April 5th all the way to mid-August. Tiger Skaggs, which was probably our number 2 starter, he last pitched April 22nd and then come back to the first week of August. Guy CJ Ramirez, who I think still leads the team in wins, has been out since late May
and you're hoping that he could have been your Shoemaker, but
he got hurt.
Yep.
Then you had a guy in Mike Trout who 6 weeks in the middle of the dog days of summer.
Mm-hmm.
You had the bullpen. Going into the season or going into spring, we had Houston Street's gonna be our closer. Never mind, it's gonna be Cam Bedrosian. Never mind, he got hurt. It'll be Andrew Beatty. Never mind, he got hurt. Well, it's gonna be Bud Norris now. He got hurt.
Right.
Okay, so now it's gonna be by committee. Okay, like I said at the beginning of the year, I was thinking 500 team, but looking at it as a whole, they did what we expected, 500. But if you consider all the injuries and everything that happened to the Angels this season, there is no way I can say that they did not overachieve.
Right.
They played in, was it August or July or August, where they had that crazy month where we were like playing mediocre, and then all of a sudden we're in the playoffs.
End of July, early August.
Yeah, and it's just we didn't expect that with all the injuries that happened. So to me, they overachieved. Now I want to quickly touch on, I think when question on Facebook, and I won't call people out, but there was a comment on there that said this person expected the Angels to win the American League West. Now, I'm all for being a fan and being optimistic and being we can do it. But realistically, man, if you were expecting this team to win the West, man, you sure look at the world with rainbows and sunshines all the time. I'm a realistic dude. And could they have maybe given a little more fight for the West? Maybe. But we would have needed our rotation to stay the same and a big guy, or a big name, or not a big name, but somebody we didn't expect to kind of shine this year. And that didn't happen. But you got to be realistic with things, guys. You look at the teams that are in our division, the Houston Astros are a much better team.
They're not, and then kind of going to what, even next year, they're not going anywhere, guys. Yeah. Like, they're young, right? They have a lot of they're young. They have good pitching. And again, everything always comes down to health, regardless of what team it is. But
yeah,
the Astros, everything stay healthy. They're not going away.
No.
So for next year, if you guys want to say, we're going to win the West, we're going to win, great. But you guys realize it's going to take 90 wins to win the West, maybe even more. With Houston in there, and you know, Rangers, who knows what's going on with them.
But if you look at the Rangers and the Angels, they're not far off as a team. If you look at them on paper, like, it's like, okay, go either way. Mariners are a decent team as well. The Mariners are no slouches.
Right.
They're a decent team. They're right there with us. I mean, I think they're a few acquisitions and free signings away from being a much better team.
Well, the same thing. They're kind of in transition with an older group going out with Felix going out and trying to get some more young pitching. So they're kind of almost in the same position.
And then the A's, well, the A's kind of just.
The A's are the A's.
So, but if you look at the team and you're like, ultimately, like this question that we had, that was emailed to us from Mike Vigil, he said, you know, I think it was Mike Vigil. Let me look real quick. Him that said, yeah, he said, ultimately, you want to enter the season to win the championship. I get that. Yeah, of course you want to win. You want to win the West. You want to win the championship. Cool. It's good to look at it, but you got to be realistic. You can't expect this team to freaking win every single game. Just not going to happen. And to me, this was an overachieving bunch of guys. They overachieved in my eyes. And it was a decent season. So I'm going to read this question from Edward Vizcaíno because it pertains to what, you know, meant to shout him out. Edward, thanks for sending the email. He said, hey guys, well, as I write this email, we are 5 back of this. I think he sent it on Monday. We're still mathematically in it, but realistic. I know it's over. I had hoped the Angels would have finished strong. Seems like they picked the wrong time to play mediocre baseball. Time to look forward for next season. We'll get into that tail end of the question next week. But he said, let's see. He said he would wish the Angels would have finished strong. It was definitely disappointing.
Right.
This week, last end of the month kind of deal. You can't look at the whole season in the last 2 months or month. You have to kind of look at it in the whole grand of things. And I know maybe this poll question kind of hit. It was a little too soon for many because, like you said, maybe a lot of people were like, they're mad, they're upset about what happened in the last month. But you got to look at it as in a whole and say, this season in a whole, you mentioned it in the last couple podcasts, you wanted competitive baseball at the end of September, and we got it.
Right. And like I said, look where the record was at this time last year. I don't know how we would have been able to do a podcast being that far out. Like, how do you, for us, I mean, it's fun coming here and being like, yeah, we're 1 game out, yeah, we're 2 games out, being in it. But I can't imagine being some of the teams where you're San Francisco or Philly or
Tigers.
Oakland, where you're out of it, you know, after the trade deadline. And then that's no fun as a fan. You know, I always like, make it competitive, make it worth me going out to the ballpark and checking it out. And for the whole season until now, they have.
Yeah, and that was us last year, guys. So, I mean, I don't know, people who said it was disappointing, I mean, to each their own. You just have to look at it as like, well, I mean, at least we were watching competitive baseball, you know? So, I mean, I don't know how much more we can talk about the last month in a whole. I mean, we've kind of touched on pretty much everything that went wrong, everything that the Angels should have done, that they didn't do. I know there's going to be a lot of questions raised as far as Mike Scioscia. That's gonna come up again. The Mike Scioscia thing is gonna be a thing where, you know, and I saw it online, you know, the last couple of days as well.
Always pops up like clockwork.
Now that we're out of the playoffs, when can we get rid of Mike Scioscia?
Yeah, we're actually getting some Mike Scioscia hate on Instagram Live, saying that the guys don't want to play for him anymore. Do you guys feel like that's true?
No, I don't. No, I strongly disagree with that.
I mean,
No.
I don't know as a fan watching on TV how you can tell.
Yeah.
Like to me that always boggled my mind that I don't care if it's baseball, football, basketball, whatever. For you to sit at home watching it on TV and only looking at it through whatever camera lens they're showing it out of, oh, he's not hustling, or he's not, he doesn't like the play or the coach. He's not playing for the coach. Like unless it's so obvious, like I don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't want. Okay, but why did everyone play their ass off when everyone was hurt and made this a competitive season?
As I was gonna say, if they really hated Mike Scioscia, we wouldn't be where we were this year. Like we really wouldn't, considering all the injuries. We'd be 20 games under. If they hated Mike Scioscia that much, we wouldn't have even been this close to the playoff card. Guys, considering all the injuries, everything that happened this year, it would have been done. And I am not a Mike Scioscia fan. Like I am not an apologist. I hate a lot of the decisions he makes. But I've mentioned before, I'm a realistic guy. You can't just fire him, because then who do you get? And I understand he's been 18 years with the Angels, and maybe a change of philosophy is what we need. But you also have to. You can't just fire him and then get some Joe Schmo. Be realistic, guys. We're not going to go out and get Joe Madden. We're not going to go out and get Terry Francona. It's not going to happen. And if we do that, we're going to waste a lot of money. Okay. And then we're not going to be able to get a lot of players. It's one of those deals where we're not going to get a manager that's 100 times better than Mike Scioscia. And I know a lot of people are going to say anybody's better than Mike Scioscia. But then if that's the case, we're going to have to go through growing pains. And the Mike Scioscia hate, I get it at some point, but I also have to say, considering everything, and I sound like a broken record, but you got to give him some credit. And a lot of people always like to look at the negative and say there was a few 7 or 8 games where he lost us a game. Sure, but there was also 7 or 8 games where he won us the game because he was puzzling a lineup together with guys. Eric Young at that scene when Trout was gone, Eric Young stepped up, and it was Mike Scioscia who put him in the lineup. Otherwise, I mean.
And I listen to a lot of and read a lot of articles and listen to a lot of different shows, podcasts, or whatever. But all of them, the majority, and I know how some people feel about ESPN. I know how some people feel about Fox, whatever. But when all of them are kind of unanimous in the fact that they're like, this is possibly one of the top, 5 managing seasons that Scioscia's ever had, just because, like you said, the missing pieces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? People kind of get too caught up, I believe, in the win-loss record. Well, they lost this many, they lost this many, they only won this many. Well, guess what? You can't win them all. Damn sure can't win them all when you're missing your best player for X amount of months. So the fact that everyone wants to get rid of Scioscia, I think a lot of times it's a lot easier for them to blame Scioscia than it is to look at the whole picture as far as who's out, when they out, who's actually our players, and look at the rebuilding they had to do. They didn't come in with a great team, kind of like what you were saying earlier. It's not like Scioscia inherited this great team that won 90-something games last year. He came in and just tore it all apart. It was more the fact that you had to rebuild. You're getting older, so you're trying to get younger pitching in, and they have to develop. You're trying to, deal with an aging Hall of Famer and Pujols, and where do you put him? Is he still productive for you? Like, there's a lot of things that are going on that maybe a lesser manager, a manager not as well seasoned as Scioscia, might have been like, you know what, we're just going to do this and we'll stick with it and not make a change, and then do it a ton worse than what the Angels actually did.
Yeah, and if the Angels didn't want to play for Mike Scioscia, it would have been the Boston Red Sox of when John Lackey was on the team and they were beer and chicken in the locker room.
Beer and fried chicken.
So I mean,
the year after they won the World Series.
Yeah, that's not wanting to play for a guy.
Yeah.
And like I said, guys, I'm not by far. I am not the biggest Mike Scioscia fan. I mentioned last week my favorite little rally necklace that Chris Security Johnson makes is the pouty face Scioscia. It is great because that's what I got used to seeing, pouty face Scioscia. A lot of the times I question his not philosophy, but I question what the moves that he makes. I question the fact that he left Bud Norris in for an extra inning, or he left Blake Parker in for an extra inning. I question all that, and it irritates me and it frustrates me. But I look at it in the bigger picture thing, and I look at what he's able to do. What he was able to do this season, man, I just can't say fire him right away. I mean, if he stays, it doesn't bother me much, and if he leaves, I'm indifferent. Like, okay, well, who did we get? Who are we gonna get? And I'll move forward from there. But for me to say that I'm a Mike Scioscia hater, I'm not. I'm kind of just in the middle with him right now. But I do have to give him props for the season this year. Like, it's not his fault entirely because the Angels got hurt. Because Mike Scioscia puzzled together guys. I'm not gonna be a super hater on that one. All right, so we had. You have anything more on that?
No, on Scioscia, no.
Okay, so I'm gonna move on this question that we had from Mike Vigil. And it's actually for you, Chris. So, what piece of Angels memorabilia in Halo Haven do you consider your pride and joy?
I think you actually asked me this question when you had me on a show a couple months back. This one's a sentimental piece, probably one of the first pieces that I had, and it's my mom's bobblehead. She went to a game in 1967, and she always kept it throughout all those years. It never broke or anything, but it's one of those real small, tiny bobbleheads. It's a generic kind of angel face where he's all super happy and giddy, thinking about going to the World Series and all that. It's probably like what the face you have at the beginning of spring training, and then you have the face that you have the Howdy Scioscia face by the end of the year. Right. That's one of those real small bobbleheads. It's cool. Have it in a case over there. Have some old Disney tickets from the '60s around it for Disneyland and stuff. But I think that's my favorite because it's it's a family piece. It's an heirloom. Other things, you buy stuff off eBay, you find stuff cool and all, but having that connection to my mom, who kind of introduced me to baseball fandom, taking me to Angel games in the early, mid '80s and stuff like that. And I know we've talked a lot about that, John. So I say that's my favorite piece.
Awesome.
And definitely not the piece that's worth the most, but sentimental.
All right. And it's the little chubby one,
like a mini chubby.
A mini chubby.
Like they got the chubby. And have Angels baseball memorabilia. Friends of the page. A good guy, but he has a ridiculous collection he just posted a few minutes ago of kind of like that generic bobbleheads before they were personalized. And I know that bobbleheads have become such a big industry now. But before all that, you just had the generic stadium ones.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of, loved those things. So.
You had that one that you had showed me that came all broken. That was a generic one too, right?
Yeah, it was the generic one from the '71 season with the little A.
Halo.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, see those, when you look at when I'm looking at them right now, it's crazy how they have evolved bobbleheads. You go from that bottom shelf all the way to that top, and it's like crazy. Because even in 2001, when they released the Chubby Salmon, the Chubby Anderson, I think a Chubby Erstad, or
the Chubby Erstad,
Chubby Salmon, and Chubby Anderson bobbleheads. Those were still a little throwback to the 60s. Even the Grinch and Downing and Carew set in 2002 was they were starting to get a little more like detailed, but they still kind of like big head, sort of a chubby body. Now it's so much detail, it's crazy. And when you look at bobbleheads online, they can go anywhere from like $20 to like $200.
Yeah,
it's
right
insane.
one.
And the subject matter, you have them like riding scooters. You have all the Star Wars ones now, Game of Thrones. Like, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. People have like jobs that are based around bobbleheads. Guy on Instagram now, Daniel follows him, but it's called Bobble House. He creates houses, and he said that no bobblehead should be homeless. So he creates cool, epic dugouts for them and scenes from stadiums. This guy's awesome.
That's cool.
I want one.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Someone wrote to you on here, Chris. I don't think you saw it. They put, how much is it? Like, do you know how much it is?
For what?
The bobblehead that your mom
had. It's probably like a $55, $60 range. That's if you had to put a price on it.
Right, and then Angels Amigos said, "Wow, Chris, an incredible collection." That's just his little bobblehead section, man. He's got a lot more stuff on here. That's insane. But anyway, I don't know where to go from here. What other subject matter do you want to talk about, Andy?
We talked about a little bit earlier with the Trout MVP, but another kind of awards that I'm gonna be looking out for. I'm not sure when they come out, when they announce the MVP, Cy Young, and the Golden Gloves and all that stuff. But I'm really interested to see the Golden Gloves this year, just because I believe we have two Angels that one I think is definitely a shoo-in, and that's with Simmons. I mean, if you watch the games at all this year, understand why, but when you look at the numbers, it's kind of crazy. His defensive WAR is at 4.2, and the next guy is Liriano from Cleveland, and he's at a 1.7.
Okay.
So you're talking about a huge discrepancy in defensive WAR. So again, this is just the defensive part of the game taken to getting the ground balls, areas covered in the outfield for and I text you guys, we've been to games, I've texted you guys, Simmons' new position should be shortstop / shallow left field. Like
softball.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Chris was saying the rover. He's the rover. He's a fourth outfielder in softball, but he covers so much ground. He's able to get to tons of pop flies. He gets a lot of ground balls. I believe he's a shoo-in for the Gold Glove at shortstop this year. Now, another guy that I'm really interested to see if he gets it, because you look at, he's not a big name per se, and especially with even Angel fans coming into the season, I don't think a lot of them knew who he was or what to expect from him. But Martin Maldonado, he is right up there in every kind of little defensive category you can think of for catchers. Again, this is just defense. His defensive WAR is at 2.0, 2 flat, but the next guy is at 1.3, and I believe that's Salvador Perez. And two, you look at his stats behind the plate, he's played 130 games, started 130 games behind the plate. Next guy, again, Salvador Perez from Kansas City, he's only started 112. So you're looking at durability, you're looking at being able to play in, game out. 130 games started, 2 errors.
Yeah.
It's 2 errors, the whole season, 2 errors. And caught stealing, he's throwing people out at just under 39%. Again, that's leading qualified catchers. So I don't know as far as if the lack of the name is going to hurt him, or if Salvador Perez has won in the past 4. He's probably the second guy behind it, but it'll be interesting to see. I feel like he should definitely win the Golden Gloves this year, but that's something to look forward to as far as, if with the Angels not in the playoffs, something to look forward to see if these guys are able to bring home some hard work for themselves.
Individual awards.
Yeah, I mean, and at the end of the year, you would love to win a World Series, kind of like our emailer said, but when that's out of your reach, out of your range, you like seeing your guys that you've seen play day in, day out get recognized for stuff that you've seen all season long. So I think Maldonado and Simmons are going to be 2 of the guys to really look out for Golden Gloves this year.
It's funny when you texted GG, I was like, GG? Groom Goon?
Yeah.
Which we can go on Groom Goon.
Want to talk about a plug?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Andrelton Simmons is insanely. That guy's the things he does on the field saves a lot of games.
Right.
Just being able to get to a ball. Maybe, a lot of people take for granted. A lot of baseball fans don't see it much, and I hate to call myself a better baseball fan than other people, but I tend to see things differently. I mean, I played in college, so I pretty high level baseball. But 2 outs, ball hit up the middle. He gets to it, ends the inning. Inning over, nothing happens. If he doesn't get to it, the next guy comes up, it's home run, it's 2 runs on the board. So you got to think of the things that he's done defensively as well to save a lot of games for the Angels, and he's done it seems like more than a handful of times.
Definitely.
And the season that he had this year offensively as well was not what we expected. He totally overachieved in my eyes as far as what he's done offensively. He had a great season. Kind of cooled off towards the end, but the dude was red hot. He was batting over 300 at a certain point in the season, late in the season. Now he's at 270, 280,
Yeah.
which is I'll take that all day. A lot of people hated the fact that we traded Eric Ibar, and now when we look at it, Andrelton Simmons, I think Sean Newcomb was in that trade.
Yep.
Where's Sean Newcomb at now? We got Andrelton Simmons, who is probably, and I don't know if we're going to do it, but did you want to do end of the year awards?
Next week?
Next week?
Yeah, next week.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be part of our whole
Yeah.
end of the year, everything. So we'll have our own personal
End of the year awards.
Yeah, MVPs, newcomer, rookie
Yeah.
of the year. So something to look forward to next week as well.
So, Andrelton threw himself into the mix there where he is potentially going to be the Angels MVP this year.
Oh,
Angels
yeah.
MVP. But there's a lot of guys that can definitely, you said Martin Maldonado. The dude, too, again, what he's done defensively is ridiculous. Look what he's done offensively. Did you expect that from Martin Maldonado this year?
No.
I mean, no, sure, his batting average is what, 240, 230, maybe
Yeah.
2 something, but what, 12, 13, 14 home runs?
Yeah,
Double-digit home runs?
Yeah, I mean, he has 14 home runs right now, 223 batting average, but I think that goes to the whole Socha thing. Socha listened to his people. He listened to Ren. I don't know if you guys know the story, but Renicky, being the ex-manager over in Milwaukee, got into Socha's ear and said, "Hey, you have to check this guy out. Bring him in, at least check him out." And they did. They brought in Maldonado. They traded Bandy, which a lot of people at the time too weren't too sure because that was supposed to be the new up and coming.
And there was a lot. I saw a lot of not memes, but a lot of side-by-side comparisons in April where Bandy kind of had a really hot start to the season. And I think if you look the numbers up now, Maldonado definitely had a better season.
Oh yeah. I mean, if not only defensively, but offensively too. Again, the power 14 home runs. You rarely get that out of an Angels catcher since what was it, Napoli, buddy. But so Maldonado is one of those sneaky guys where you got production out where you didn't think kind of signing him a 1-year contract. Let's see how he goes, and boom, there you go. So
yeah.
Maldonado is definitely one of the big surprises for the year.
Yep. There's a question on the Instagram live. Do you see it, Chris? I'm getting.
Which one? We're getting.
It was kind of at the top. I lost it, and then he mentioned it again at the bottom. Like for some reason, my phone froze.
What was it about?
It's about something about what happened to the team.
Yeah, we're getting a lot about like where did we go wrong? where did the train come off the tracks? We had more potential this year than any other year.
I don't know about potential.
Yeah.
I'm also getting, I like this one. Damn, these guys are good. Fox Sports should hire both of them like now. Big thanks at Superior Skull XX on the Instagram live. Thanks for the compliments.
Yeah. I see it now. It says we had more potential this year than any other year with Upton and Phillips. Upton and Phillips came at the end of the year, so I can't say that we had more potential. This was a 500 team. We said it. You said it. I said it at the beginning of the first podcast of the year. We were like, the 500 team. Like, I mean, we even talked about at the beginning of the show. If you go back and listen, so you should go back and listen, and then you know that way you listen to the show. But in my eyes, they overachieved, man. Like, I can't say that they had more potential this year than any other year.
I don't think they had more potential. Like, I don't know where you get the potential from because it's hard to. What you saw the potential in Bridwell? Like, what are they like? I don't get how they're saying the potential, but I think what hurt the Angels, and I don't know how you fix it overnight, but it's the temper call-ups, the lack of depth in the minor league system. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if certain teams were able to get certain guys off, but they have good enough depth in their minor league system to where there's not a big drop off. Where the Angels, they really don't have a solid backup, in the. I mean, yeah, everyone loved EY because he hustles, he plays hard, but
realistically,
but when you come down to the skill part of it, he's not to that caliber of a Upton, Trout, Calhoun.
Yeah.
So you lose a little bit something there. Cron, when he's struggling, you don't have a better option. You don't have a minor league first baseman that's, he can get hot too, or he's getting him.
Yeah.
You don't have that. There's such a big drop off between a Cron and then maybe like a Marte. Like, there's not a big drop, there's not a small gap there. So I think a lot of it too had to do with the call-ups, December call-ups. You're trying to get more work in the bullpen. Yeah, some guys stood out, but then some guys too, you see why they're in the minor league system to begin with. So I think that I think that's part of it. Again, I don't think that's all of it, but sometimes it just comes down to baseball.
Yeah.
You get streaky, you get streaky. You get cold, you get cold. It all depends on what part of the season you get. Are we still having the same conversation if they're cold in August and then you flip it and now they're hot now? Like,
right.
Oh, we were so now the conversation goes from, oh, we were so disappointing. Oh, why did we not come? Now it turns into, man, we were so close. We made a run at it. We're almost there next year. So again, like, I don't see how you could take a 1 month sample size in a season that's 162 games and say they choked or they are disappointing. Like, no, you have to look at the whole time. Streaks happen in baseball. You just hope that your streaks are fit in line with where it helps you the most at the end of the season, or when you play a certain team where you can gain You know, if we went on a streak when we played Minnesota, we wouldn't have to worry about this.
Right.
So, you know, baseball is just really hard to judge. It's just, I mean, you have guys that are quote unquote professionals and do it for a living, and they ask them at the beginning of the year who's going to the World Series, and like 85% of those guys aren't right. And maybe they can only get one team right. You know, so baseball's baseball. I don't know how you go out and say, oh, we had all the potential in the world. It's like, these guys are who they are for the most part.
And I understand. I kind of get it. Like, maybe he meant at that when we picked up Phillips and Upton, we had the potential to maybe take over the wild card spot. Offensively, sure. Man, you had a guy like Upton. Okay, they kind of should put us over, but it again. I think pitching and defense wins you games, and our pitching was patchwork this year. So when you look at the team, and like, oh, the pitching. You were talking about streaky. I want to quickly touch on this. Someone had posted on one of the social media, I'm not sure if it was on the Halo Haven page or whatever, someone had said, if you give CJ Cron consistent at-bats, I see him as a 30 home run, 90 RBI guy. I right away said, no way, too streaky.
Yeah.
You texted us, a few days ago, and you said, like, Cron is 0 for his last 20.
Yeah, there was a stat...
And that shows you right there where it's just like, I like CJ, and we mentioned it before, he's a streaky guy, so when he's streaky, put him in. But I don't see him ever being a 30 home run, 90 RBI guy.
2 days ago. Two days ago, there was a tweet by Jeff Fletcher of the OC Register. He's a great guy to follow on Twitter. He's the beat reporter that follows the team everywhere it goes. But yeah, CJ Cron was in a hitless streak at 20 at bats, and then later that night he ended up getting a hit, so he ended up going like 1 for 22 or something like that. So yeah, super streaky hitter. At that time, when he goes 0 for 10, 0 for 12, you would love as a manager to say, hey man, take a couple of days off, try to get your mind right. We're gonna put player X in there and see if we can get a spark. But no fault of Socials at all. They don't have that right now.
Yeah.
You would love it to see if Marte can develop.
But you just gotta.
But that's the reason why too. Everyone was complaining about why they're sending Marte down. Why are they sending Marte down? Because he needs at bats. Marte's not going to get any better
sitting
and playing every 5th day, 6th day, or whatever at first base when Cron goes on a cold streak. Now he's going to come in. So you hope these players that go down to AAA, the Martes, the Perez's, if Cal Gill starts down there next year. These guys that are young and you hope to develop, you hope that they're able to get at bats, get reps while they're down there, and then be able to not skip a beat when they come up. Otherwise, it's hard to justify bringing up a catcher like Perez behind a guy like Maldonado, where we said earlier he's played 130 games, and this is game 158.
Yeah.
So he would literally have just played 28 games. Is that fair? Is that fair to Perez? Are you able to develop a player like that? No, you can't. So, you have to hope that these guys are able to take big steps in their minor league careers, and then again help the Angels when September calls come.
Yeah. So, to answer that person's question, that kind of answers it for me. He's too streaky of a guy. He's always been like that, CJ Cron, since he's came up. Too streaky of a guy to hit 30-something home runs and hit 90 RBI. Or driving 90.
Now, does he have the potential?
He does.
He has the potential to do it.
He's got to put it together.
He has to put a full season together. He's always started off slow. You go down AAA, that middle summer months are great. He booms, and then kind of peters out at the end. It's kind of his MO at this point. So if you can get a consistent year behind him, I could see him getting, maybe not 30, but mid-20s.
That's what I said.
Mid-20s, 90 RBIs isn't out of the question, especially if he's batting behind people like Trout and whoever is going to be lead off, whether it's Upton or behind Upton, Trout, and whoever's leading off next year. Like, that's not unheard of, but he has to really mature and become a better hitter. Consistent player.
Because I think his hitting, like he chases a lot of bad pitches. I love the guy. Trust me, dude. Don't get me wrong. I see him being between 20 and 25 home runs, 70 to 80 RBIs. That's just how I see him. Anything else you want to touch on real quick before we sign off?
No, but just a reminder, next week, because the season won't end on Sunday, so next Thursday will be our last weekly podcast. After that, we'll probably go by month.
Yeah.
the World Series will happen in October, and then after that, I believe players like Upton will have 3 days. I think they have 3 days after the end of the World Series, so whenever that is, to make their decision whether to opt in or opt out. So I would say around that time, the beginning of November, look for a podcast. Then we can start talking more about if Upton opts out, then we can say, okay, where do they go from here? If he opts in, then that changes the dynamic. So next week will be our last weekly podcast, and we'll go over the whole season, what they do next. Like you said, our yearly awards, we'll both have a set.
And we'll let Chris have a set
Chris too. So so that's it for this week. And again, come out Saturday. Some of us will be at the game Saturday. We'll be posting stuff when we're there, so look for us.
Yeah, for sure. And if you guys have questions, again, for the email, it's allangelspodcast@gmail.com, allangelspodcast@gmail.com. And then, like Dan said, if you guys have questions too, also on Halo Haven fan pages on Facebook and the Twitter account as well.
Yeah, Halo_Haven on Twitter and on Instagram.
Yeah, and then also, we mentioned a couple weeks ago, we have a couple of interviews from the Empire 66ers that we did about a month and a half ago that we still want to play for you guys. So that'll look forward to that during the off season as well. And then like you said, I think once a month will be good because we'll have the winter meetings, and then obviously if the Angels have any signings or
free agencies pop,
yeah,
and then right back. And I think that's why I like about baseball so much too, because you have October, the season's over. You have all of October for the playoffs and World Series and stuff like that, and then November, December, January.
You always kind of have something happening.
Yeah, and then February, end of February, beginning of March, spring training's back out there. Then
Tempe.
We'll try to coordinate a trip where we all can go to spring training, and then hopefully do a podcast from out there. Have you guys let you guys know when we're going to be out there. Try to make it a fan experience kind of deal, but definitely. That's the thing about baseball. It's such a long season, which is great for the fans, and that it always seems around the corner. When the season's over, when the World Series is over, it always feels like it's right around the corner. They report. You start counting the days down until pitchers and catchers report. So that's something to look forward to.
What's that quote, Chris, that you said last week? That was it, Honus Wagner?
Yeah. Somebody said, what do you do during the off season? And he replied something to the effect that I just stare out the window every day, waiting for spring to come.
Yep.
I couldn't agree more. That's the smell of the grass, the sound of the wooden bat hitting the ball. Let's get the 28th going already. So we got to look forward to. I obviously, football season. I'm not a huge football fan. I'm more of a basketball fan. So basketball for me, and then football is after. But I kind of look forward to that. But once spring training rolls around, boom, all bets are off. I'm back on the baseball bandwagon. So. All right, that's going to wrap it up for us today. Thanks again to Chris Security Johnson for letting us do our podcast here from Halo Haven headquarters. Quick shout out to all our friends, our listeners, all the people that have sent emails to the allangelspodcast@gmail.com, and everyone who participated on the poll questions. Thank you guys very much. And on Instagram Live, too. Thank you guys for jumping on there. I'm Johnny Maggs.
I'm Daniel Garcia.
And this has been another edition of the All Angels Podcast for the week of September 28th, 2017. We'll catch you guys next week. The same channel, all that good stuff. You all have a great night. I know the lyrics here.
Yeah, you're like one of the few.
California Angels win that game. California Angels win that game. We shine throughout the golden west. We know that we're the very best. California Angels team. Stand up halfway through, dude. I'm like, I can't do it. Wait, once Once I once we get a laptop, once we get that, download the garage band down, and we can just get like chairs that we can get back. Kind of, we have to be like this.
Yeah, to get to it.